This will be somewhat of a random tutorial, but it's going to be based on, hey, let's animate a little bit of text and let's create an overlimit. So when you are increasing your voxel size on a mesh, and let's just say you don't want to have this thing crash out, then you can say, oh, if I increase this limit too far, boom, let's show a message. And the message can be something like face limit reached. And then for the stupid sake of just having fun with the tutorial, kind of animating the text. So let's have just a little bit of fun with this. Starting out with the good old-fashioned cube, we're just going to throw in a few different things. Let's go ahead and do a mesh to volume and throw that in. And now we're creating our volume, and let's go volume to mesh, do that. And what I want to do is put in a domain size, and domain size is going to allow us to select the geometry, and we're going to delete. It's going to allow us to select the geometry after our little setup here, and based on the count that we set here for the face count, so let's bring out a greater than, it's going to either show the original geometry or delete it. And then we want to control that with a switch. So the switch is going to be part and parcel how we get this done. So you can go into add, and let's go down to utilities, text, and what we want to do is find the strings to curve. Okay, and I want this to go in here, and I want the result of my greater than, when it reaches X, Y, whatever Z this is switch it off. And I also want the greater than to control the delete geometry. If it's going to end up doing it. Let's see what's going wrong here. Think I need to plug this in, the volume to mesh here instead, so I can put that behind it. There we go. So now that should work out nice. And I want to change this curve. So when it comes in, we'll just say, hey, test message, whatever. I don't want it to just be thin like that, so I'm going to go mesh to curve. You know what I meant to do. I'm going to curve to mesh, dump that, and I want to put a curved circle. And once that's in there, I can obviously bring the radius down to something decent, like 0.005 maybe, and just kind of bring it up from there. That actually looks pretty good. And now we'll have to set this limit. Okay, and before I do that, I'm going to bring out the voxel amount, so that way I can kind of play with the voxel amount. So whatever this is going to create some certain number of faces. And then I'm going to bring out the controls for the greater than, so we can get a look at what's going on here. Let's turn on statistics. I've got 96 faces. So if I was to put this to 96 and then just slightly bring this up, it's going to snap into the test message. And we can just say over limit. I like that, looks good. And so anytime you bring up that voxel amount above that, it's going to be too much. So now I would bring this to anything you can think of. It doesn't matter, whatever you think is going to crash your project. Maybe 10,000 faces does it. And once it gets up around 10,000 faces, instead of locking up Blender, it's going to stay cool, calm, and collected for you and do this thing. Now I want to throw in a set position node. And I'm going to throw a little bit of noise on this just for the fun of it. I want to do an offset vec math. I want to set this to subtract, get my mid-level right, throw a noise texture color right there, set it to 1.2 just to kind of bring it down a touch, and we're subtracting 0.5 as usual, and that brings this back to where it should be. And I think we could probably bring that back even a little more. I'll put a subdivision surface on this to make it look a little bit better, and I set shade smooth. You can see that's going to make it look a little bit nicer. So you can play around with that, 1 or 2 levels, whatever you want to do. You can output my scale as well, so I can kind of play with this over here. And in fact, if you want, you can set this to 4D. All right, and then your 4D, you can probably put a scene time frame or seconds on there, whatever you want. And this will animate for you. Let's see, seconds probably a little bit slower. There we go. And there's other ways of doing this. You don't have to have that in there. You can do the old school hashtag frame, create a driver /500, and then you can change it from there. And I think that's a little too slow. You can't see it. So there we go. And there's another way to control the speed, which you can also do. Let's see, I want to delete that driver. I can plug seconds back in, and I'll throw in not a mesh, I'll throw in a math. Set this to multiply. Let's hit play. And then I should be able to bring this speed up and down right here. And that's another way of doing it if you wish. And there's even better ways, but that's just one quick way to get her done. All right, so you can play around with the limit here. You bring your voxel limit up, you got an overlimit. Now, the fun thing is that set position is also affecting our text. So if we come over here and hit play, you've now got a cool way to animate text. You want to bring out some other properties though, because that's not going to be enough. And I want the resolution to like 6, maybe even 4, doesn't matter for this. And that'll keep it from slowing down so much. So now that looks a lot better. And now I could bring out the string value for sure. That way you can just type in whatever you want. The line spacing. Hang on a second. The character spacing. There we go. We want to bring that out. Character spacing is very helpful. And the word spacing. And I'll just bring that out of the way and hit play. And oh, there's one more thing. I wanted to say, hey, the text box width, I can just throw that down underneath. And I've limited the text box. I wanted to be able to represent that, but I'm not sure we can, technically speaking, do that. Let's bring up the viewer node here. I was hoping to kind of see an outline potentially, but I guess you can't really see that. That's sad. There's got to be a way to do it. My brain's too tired to figure it out now. But you can now animate your text. You can control the radius, bunch of cool things. And I'm probably going to turn this into an add-on with some extra controls in it so you guys can have some fun, because I can do a lot more with the Python behind the scenes than just what you can do here. But you can change the limit size and a few other things. And then if you were to bring your voxel amount back, you're now animating this. And just so you don't crash that out, but hey, if you don't want to do it like this, you can simply set up your curved mesh text along with all of these nodes right here and make your own thing. And if we go up here, I can just add a nice color to that. And it's text, so I'm just going to turn it blue. I do that with anything. It's like math or text. And we can just call this text logic. And there you go. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have fun. Use this. Tell me what you think in the comments. I didn't come up with all of this stuff necessarily, but for my application and playing around and animating the text, that was definitely something I kind of just figured out. Have fun. See you guys in the next tutorial.